Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to start with the very first chapter of class 10th English course A, and the name of this chapter is Two Gentlemen of Verona, and this video is prepared and presented by Verona. Now I have divided this chapter into several parts, and this is the second part of this chapter. For the first part, click on the link given below in the description box. In the week which followed, we saw them frequently, for they proved extremely useful to us if we wanted a pack of American cigarettes, or seats for the opera, or the name of a good restaurant. Nicola and Jacopo could be relied upon to satisfy our needs. Now, since narrator and his companion were new to Verona, they were like tourists. So they needed someone so that they can satisfy their needs. So they were dependent upon the two boys, Nicola and Jacopo, and these two boys proved extremely useful to them. They brought them a pack of American cigarettes. They bought seats for the opera cinema for them, and they told them the name of a good restaurant in Verona. So in these ways, the two boys proved extremely useful to the narrator and his companion. So let's revise. What are the three ways? First, they brought a pack of American cigarettes for them. They bought seats for the opera cinema for them, and they told them the name of a good restaurant. Now let's proceed further. What struck one most was their willingness to work. During these summer days under the hot sun, they shined shoes, sold fruit, hawked newspapers, conducted tourists round the town, and ran errands. Now the narrator and his companion were heavily influenced by their willingness to work. The two boys were very willing to work anything, because in these summer days under the hot sun, they did the following things. They shined shoes, we saw this point earlier. They sold fruit, they hawked newspaper, means they sold and carried newspapers. They conducted tourists around the town, this point is also not new, and ran errands. So they did many things and they were multitasking. So see their willingness to work, how much they are willing to do so. One night we camped upon them in the windy and deserted square, resting on the stone pavement beneath the lights. Deserted means empty of people, and square means not like this. Square means an area. So one night the narrator and his companion saw them resting on the stone pavement beneath the lights, and the area was deserted and the weather was windy. "Why are you so late, Nicola?" asked the narrator. The narrator asked them after seeing them resting on the stone pavement at such a time. The narrator asked them, why are they late? Why are they out so late? Nicola sat upright, tired. A bundle of unsold newspapers lay at his feet. Jacopo, his head resting upon his brother's shoulder, was asleep. It was nearly midnight. Nicola was sitting and his brother Jacopo was sleeping by taking support of his brother's shoulder, Nicola's shoulder. Okay, and a bundle of newspapers which were not sold on that day could be seen at their feet. So the time was nearly midnight. See, the newspapers were not sold that day, and to sell them they were resting out so late in midnight. So this indicates their willingness to work again. Waiting for the last bus from Padua. We shall sell all our papers when it comes in. Now, as a reply to the narrator, Nicola said that they were waiting for the last bus coming from the city of Padua, and their plan was to sell all their newspapers to the travelers of that bus when it comes in. Must you work so hard? You both look rather tired, asked the narrator. So the narrator asked them if they worked so hard, and further added that they both look rather tired. We are not complaining, sir, Nicola answered as a reply to the narrator that they were not complaining that so much workload was upon them. They were willing to do work. They were not forced by someone else to do a particular job. So in this way they were not complaining. They were willing to do so. But next morning, when I went over to the fountain to have my shoes shined, I said, Nicola, the way you and Jacopo work, you must earn quite a bit. You spend nothing on clothes, you eat little enough. When I see you have a meal, it's usually black bread and figs. Tell me, what do you do with your money? So next morning, when the narrator went near the fountain to have his shoes shined by the two boys because they shined the shoes of other people. So the narrator the narrator told Nicola that they must earn quite a bit because they work very hard. They earn so much, but they spend so little on clothes and food. So you can see there foodstuffs were very cheap, like black bread and figs. Figs was a kind of fruit. So uh, they worked so hard, they earned so much, but they spent so little on clothes and their food. So the narrator wondered that where did all their money go, all their remaining money go. They earn so much, they spend so little on clothes and food. So the narrator asked Nicola that what did they what did they did with all their money. He colored deeply under his sunburn, then grew pale. He looked to the ground. Sunburn here refers to the sunburnt skin, the skin which was burned by the action of sun. So after hearing narrator's question, Nicola colored deeply under his sunburn. That means that the pink color on his face was so prominent that it was even visible under his sunburnt skin, and he flushed suddenly and grew pale. His face turned suddenly pale and dull because just after he had a thought of his ailing sister. His sister was ailing of tuberculosis. So he was reminded by his ailing sister, therefore he turned pale. He looked to the ground because he was so much overwhelmed, he was so much aroused with emotions that he was not able to face the narrator. So after hearing narrator's question, he was colored deeply that uh, and his pink color on his face was so prominent that it was even visible under his sunburnt skin, and he flushed suddenly. He grew dull and pale because just then he had an afterthought of his ailing sister. He looked to the ground because he was unable to face the narrator. because he was aroused with a lot of emotions regarding his sister ailment. You must be saving up to emigrate to America, I suggested. He looked at me sideways, spoke with an effort. Now the narrator suggested Nicola that they must be saving some money to leave their country, that is Italy, and emigrate to America. Here emigrate means to leave one's country and uh, go to another country and stay up there. So they must be saving some money so that they can leave their country and stay in America, and this was the suggestion of narrator. So after hearing this suggestion of narrator, Nicola looked at him sideways and he spoke with an effort because he was aroused with a lot of emotions after hearing this suggestion. And what are those emotions? It will be more clear as we proceed further in this chapter. We should greatly like to go to the States, but here at present we have other plans. So as a reply, Nicola answered the narrator that they were willing to go to the States, but they had other plans too. Therefore, they were unable to go to the States. What plans? Asked the narrator to Nicola. So he wondered what plans that Nicola was talking about. He smiled uncomfortably. Just plans, sir, he answered in a low voice. So after hearing the narrator's question that what plans are you talking about, Nicola smiled in an uncomfortable manner because this topic was a lot of overwhelming for him, as I discussed earlier, and he answered in a low voice, and he uh, did not give the narrator a detailed information about his other plans, and wanted to discontinue his conversation with narrator by saying that just plans, because he was willing to discontinue his conversation with narrator because he did not want any help and sympathy from other strange people.